Welcome back, everyone, to day 3 of the Cyberbot Educator Workshop. This is March 29th, 2024. As always, here is a link to the slideshow, which has many useful links within it that I follow to show you stuff and that you might want to go back to see those various pages I went to paste. So there it is. Just a little reminder to, if you have a single screen, click the view button in the upper right of your Zoom display, exit full screen view, and then arrange it next to your window. And again, if you have more than one display, don't worry about this. And then you can also have it refill your screen again as needed. Today we'll be doing some we'll be testing the infrared sensors, and then we'll look at some cybersecurity and other material. There's actually lots more than is showing here on Friday. We'll talk about educational resources. We'll look over the cybersecurity materials, and there are also some add-ons that are pretty cool that you can do with the Cyberbot. Let's see here, projects and add-ons. And then we'll talk about classroom implementation, and that will be the final part of the workshop. So, so what we did for homework was get our circuit ready for infrared light. We talked about how the old infrared TV remotes that are pointed at television sets of the 2010 and earlier variety have infrared light in the TV remote and then an infrared receiver in the TV. And then what we're doing is we're using that same principle to, with the Cyberbot, shine light at the at an obstacle. Looking for the, here we go. So basically it uses the infrared LED to shine light at an obstacle, and if it bounces back and hits the light collecting face of the infrared receiver tells the microbit about it, and the script can take action. Or if it goes on into space, a different signal comes from the infrared receiver. And interestingly enough, the infrared receiver sends the exact same voltage patterns as the whiskers, which is kind of fun because it shows, basically patterns in how things happen with electronic devices that students will appreciate. Some of them will greatly appreciate it later if they go into a technical field like electronics or robotics. All right, so we got all these parts, and we made sure not to use the photo transistor, which has a flatter or even flat face. We got the clear dome-shaped IR LED, and then we put it into the IR LED standoff and shield, and then built this circuit. And then I also sent a link to a page to run a test. And so that's this page right here. And then the test was way at the bottom. Copy. And when I send that to the microbit, the way we find out if everything was working correctly by running the script with the 3-position switch in position 1. And you could actually run it in position 2 because the script is not sending any servo motor control signals. But if you had a script that was testing and running the servos at the same time. What you'd want to do is keep it in position 1 for testing and then move it to position 2 to allow it to start moving. All right, so notice that if I put my hand in front of the right infrared detector, the right of the 2 lights down here turns off. That's the P21 light. And then if I put my hand in front of the left of the 2 detectors, the left of the 2 lights down here, the P20 light turns off. And then I want to be able to have that happen, out to, somewhere between 6 inches and a foot. The infrared receivers can no longer see my hand. Was my hand visible when I did that? Here, I'll do it. So there's P21 light going out, and then here is P20 light going out. And of course, you can also make both lights go out. All right, so I'm seeing a thumbs up. And let's see, let me look at my chat. Two thumbs up so far. And oh, good. 3, 4, 5. Wow. Hey, way to go, everybody. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I couldn't get either 20 or 21 to turn on. Now, so Anna, let's see here. One thing is, are you, so the most common problem is a circuit mistake, but if neither light turned on, let's see here. Let's just test your lights first. So I'm going to send you a script and just to make sure that your lights come on. Okay, now remember, you can use the trick of shading, and to outdent, hold down the shift key and tap the tab button. And one thing is that, let's see here, why are these showing me errors? Oh, it's because try just doing a 1. There we go. All right, so let me make sure that these turn both my lights on. Okay, but now it won't respond to the infrared detector. So I'll text you this code to see if your lights come on. And if they do.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I just found out the problem is I had one of my batteries in the wrong way, but now I'm getting the red warning button flashing in the top.
Okay, so make sure that all your batteries are inserted well, and then make sure you might want to also try unplugging the power right here and then plugging it in. Sometimes you can feel it go most of the way in, but then if you give it an extra push, it just sinks a little further. And so those 2 things can be causes of your warning light flashing. The other thing is if you, well, one of the things you'll see in the classroom is students forgetting to set the power to 0 and unplug the barrel jack. And so that can also, that can, if the script is running overnight, it could potentially drain the batteries. And if that's the case and you don't have an extra set of batteries, it's probably okay to keep running with the red light flashing. We'll see how it goes. Now with the red light flashing, does it behave to the sensors the way you were hoping? Does the
my P20 and my P21 are on really bright. They're like flashing almost.
Okay.
And then I also have my warning light on, and they're not turning off when I put anything in front of the sensors.
Okay, so there may also be a circuit mistake. So one of your jobs is going to be to basically go through very carefully against the slide And see, I'll back it up a little bit, see if it focuses. All right, how's that look? Okay, so what you'll need to do is basically
Actually, I got it working now.
oh, congratulations.
We can move on. Sorry. Thanks everyone for waiting for me.
Oh, hey, that's great. Well, I would like to point out that, you know, since this is I mean, students will have a lot more practice with circuits than everybody here will have had. But I would like to point out that when you're troubleshooting this one, it's important to set it side by side with your so basically you can set it side by side with your circuit diagram. And then essentially go through and if you have the capacity to print it, you can actually use a yellow highlighter on paper to basically check each connection. So you know, you could start and say, okay, well, I've got this red, black, red resistor and it's plugged into P21, and then run over here to your actual robot and take a look at that P21 connection. And okay, so yes, great. I'm sorry, P1, not P21. And so you can say, okay, great, it's connected to P1. And then you'll also want to pull it up a little bit and push it all the way in just to make sure it's really socketed and in there, that it's not just kind of at the very entrance to the socket, because that will that'll allow it to have problems too. And essentially go through every single wire and make sure that both ends are connected as shown in the diagram. Or if you follow the schematic, that's also another way to do it for those of you who read schematics. We do include schematics with every project so that students can kind of at least gather that, you know, depending on the depth you go, they can at least gather that, hey, there's a schematic representation for every circuit I've been building. All right, so let's go ahead and try out the object avoidance, which comes next. Oh, I should mention, many classrooms, although it's becoming less common with LED replacements for fluorescent lights, there's this script right here that will make a beeping noise and cause the P20 and 21 lights to flicker when you point it at certain fluorescent lights that are giving off interference that happens to be flashing on and off at the same frequency that the infrared has to flash on and off for the infrared receiver and that you built on the circuit. It's looking for 38,000 times a second infrared flashing on and off, and that's also what the Cyberbot is sending out through the infrared LED. Well, it so happens that some fluorescent lights interfere with that and cause false object detection. And so, so just please make a mental note that we have here a way to test for that. And then you can either turn the lights off or get the robots far away from the light that is causing interference detection. Now, there are also ways to adjust the detection range. For example, if you have a red LED circuit and they have you build the red LED circuit in addition to everything else, and then you go ahead and run a script that turns that light on, and then by using larger and larger resistors, students can observe how this red light gets dimmer and dimmer when they put larger and larger value resistors. And that's something that can be done with the resistor that's on P1 going to this infrared flashlight. and then the one that's on P14 going to this infrared flashlight if some tuning needs to be done. Which typically you don't need to. And then this was the test. This is basically the all-important test script for testing the indicators. And we have a little video about how to take a piece of paper and test to make sure that they're both that both lights are coming on. And since we've all been reporting that, let's see, I didn't test the fluorescent lights, but I got the interference code working, and it was so fun playing with. Oh yeah, so you pointed the remote at that. That's really cool. You pointed at the remote at the Cyberbot and pressed a button and then got the alarm signal. So yes, yeah, that is the way they work, and that is also a form of mischief that students can end up doing to each other to interfere with their partners' infrared navigation. So this navigation that I'm going to send you is just like the whiskers. We even have our forward, backwards, left and right. And so it's again to show that there are similarities in circuit behaviors. And before I send this to you, I am going to update those values because again, they're not really so great. So I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that there's a whole lot of errors that are shown right now. And does anybody want to take a guess as to what's wrong?
The import files were not there, I believe.
That's exactly right. I'm not importing Cyberbot in the script. I had not shaded and copied the entire script. And so now that we have from Cyberbot import star, notice that everything else is just fine. All the error messages went away. Okay, and when we send this to the microbit in position 1, and let me paste this to you. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to fix the values here. So we want to back up by, really we want all these guys to be at least 650 to do anything real. Okay. All right, so here you go. And it's going to behave just like the whiskers. In that it's going to cruise along until it finds an obstacle, and then it's going to abruptly back up and change direction. Okay, so here we go. And you can unplug the after loading it, you can unplug the Cyberbot and oh, maybe I forgot to load it. Flash. Okay, so there's an obstacle and there's a evasive maneuver, and actually it saw another obstacle that was off screen. So there's an obstacle and here it's turning away to get away from obstacles. See if I can demo that one more time. And feel free to unplug your Cyberbot from USB and set it on the floor and let it roam, and put your hand in front of one of the sensors, and or And the main thing is that there are certain things it can't see. For example, black cove base that is around the edge of, or was around the edge of many classrooms when I was a kid. It's, about a 6-inch tall black strip that's around the base of a wall to prevent scuff marks on the wall's paint. That stuff and electrical tape are both very invisible as objects. So, but if you have something like a book with a brightly colored cover, or your hand, or the Cyberbot box, those are all great obstacles that it will detect. And I think I'm going to let everybody play with this for a little bit. What do you guys think of that? Was that pretty fun? Oh, yours saw the wall board. Huh, very interesting. Okay, and I'm getting lots of thumbs up, and yeah, these are the kind of applications where students get really excited about it. Okay, and I have another script for you, and this one's more responsive. So one thing about non-contact sensors is, unlike a whisker, basically once you've bumped into it, it's too late. You have to take the time to back up, choose a new direction, and go that way. But what you can also do in a script is not take any time, or maybe just sleeping for 20 milliseconds, and then check again. And so this while true loop goes through, and it basically checks the infrared sensors, and then it says, well, if they're both 0, back up. If the left one is 1 and the right one is 0, that means the right one sees an object. Then just take a tick left. So when it goes to left, it just goes left for 20 milliseconds before it comes back and restarts the loop. And so basically, it'll very rapidly keep on detecting that there's an object, and keep on adjusting until it has found an open corridor in which to travel. So I'll go ahead and paste you all this one. And there you go. So I highly recommend trying this one. It's a lot of fun. Okay. See if I can get some more view here. So it saw the camera stand on the left. Let me see if I can. Okay, so I kind of narrowed its viewing angle. See how it does now. There we go. That's what I was looking for in terms of a response. It helps if you have more room to point the infrared detectors just a little bit outward. You want to have them level to the ground, but pointed maybe 10, 15 degrees away from the center line. So like this one's pointed 10 degrees out that way, and this one's pointed 10 degrees out that way. And although I start it running straight at my hand, it sees and avoids my hand. See if I can. And then let's get some thumbs up when you've got that one verified and try with the cat. Yeah, the cat might, the cat's fur might diffuse the infrared light and not reflect it. Hard to tell. Some cats might be very reflective and others might be absorbent when it comes to infrared. And yeah, let's see here. It's kind of funny. We have an ultrasonic detector that I'll be showing you in a little while, and that one didn't work so well on a teddy bear because the teddy bear diffused the ultrasound and it did not reflect off the teddy bear and go back to the robot. Another thing about cats, we have several at home, and they're always very interested in the robot as it navigates around, and they like to chase it. Some actually sternly discipline the robot to try to tell them tell it who's boss. So yeah, that's great. And it looks like I got a lot of thumbs up, so everybody got that one running. You guys are doing really great. All right, way to go. Thumbs up still coming through. Very good, everyone. Okay, and then I have an Easter egg. I think in the faster IR navigation slide. I hid some extra code for you that's not in the web book. This code will make it follow your hand. So I'll go ahead and paste that through to you. Or actually, let me demo it first. Okay, so here we're going to demo the object following code. Now, in this case, there's two little error messages when it's checking the result of bot.ir detect, and those error messages are incorrect. That's the simulator inside the editor thinking that the code can't work, but when the script is loaded into the microbit, the MicroPython runtime engine inside the microbit does just fine with it as it's supposed to. So don't worry about these guys. And you will see that from time to time in scripts. And in our documentation, we try to warn the students, hey, you might see this little dot on this line. And don't worry about it. That's just an error on the editor's part. All right, so with that said, I'm going to run it and then show you how it should behave for you. Basically, if I put my hand in front of the robot, so I'm going to turn it on, I'm going to turn on the robot off screen, and then it's going to go forward until it sees my hand. And notice that as I turn my hand, the robot turns, and I can push the robot backwards and pull it forwards. The force is really strong on me. I can do this to robots. And by the way, these are the bots you're looking for. Droids you're looking for, pardon me. Okay, so that is how it works. And now I will paste the code to you. Select all, copy. And we'll go ahead and paste that into the chat. All right, so there it is. Try that one out. This is, I think, one of the more popular applications. For the Cyberbot. I think for this one, you'll want to, let's see here. It'd be fun to have students riff on this code by creating challenges for them, try to tag the other robots, for instance, or avoid run robot that's pursuing them. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, there's also swarm behavior, like you can put, let's see if I can find a sheet of paper. Other fun games are, well, one's a little scary. You mount and you hang some helium balloons around a course, and then put mount a small pin upwards of the robot, and then see who can pop the most balloons. And that one's been really popular when we've done it at Parallax open houses. Let's see here. What was I going to show you? Ah, yes. So take a partial, like a half sheet of paper. I'm folding up a sheet of paper off screen, and I'll go ahead and unplug this robot. And if you attach the half sheet of paper to the back of the robot like that, then what you can do is you can have one robot that's very gradually leading using a remote control program that I'll be showing you shortly. You want to have it running at a slow speed, and then you can have a whole bunch of other robots also with the same tailgate set up here. And then basically you can line them up and see how many will follow each other, because basically that's a very good target for a robot in a line. And so another thing I want to mention about this is that if one of the robots seems to be not tracking very well, sometimes that has to do with the fact that there's a difference in the how well the detectors are detecting. For example, with this one, notice that at the same distance, so here my hand is at the same distance, but well, actually, this is commendably good, but you can see that there's a little bit of a difference. Like it thinks that the left sensor is further away, or is closer, no, further away than the right sensor. And so, so if I bring the left sensor straight forward, oh, now that overcompensated. So you can use geometry. Now I just kind of adjusted the sensor that was more nearsighted so that it was pointing more straight ahead. And now I actually have a pretty well matched pair of sensors. You can see that as the obstacle is flat facing the robot, the distances of the two sensors are showing on the microbit, and they're pretty close. Not exact, but I wouldn't try to really go for completely exact. Well, how'd it work for you guys? One, two, three thumbs up. Got a very cool. Thank you. 4 thumbs up. Oh, a party emoji. Nice. Made the adjustment good now. Oh, very well done, Jamie. Okay, so you had one sensor that was way more nearsighted than another, and you used geometry to point it slightly away and fixed it. All right. Well done, everyone. So there is a second Easter egg code that we're going to skip, but I want to let you know it's there because it's more of a project. So the one behind the faster IR navigation is the recommended, works, known to work well. And what it does is a trick with the infrared frequency that takes a while to wrap your mind around and explain to students, especially. The frequency is adjusted, and by changing the frequency, there's a filter inside the infrared detector that makes it more nearsighted. But there is a way to actually simply adjust the LED brightness. And that's what the code behind the whisker-like slide, the test slide. So under faster IR navigation is the one that works usually straight off the bat. This one, testing the IR object detectors, although it's easier to explain because this little loop here just simply goes through different brightnesses of lights. It takes more tuning and testing to get this one to work. This one is more persnickety. So it's harder to get to run, but it's easier to explain because it just says, okay, I'll make it a little dimmer. Do I still see the object? Yes. Okay, it must be closer. I'll make it a little more dim. Do I still see the object? Yes, it must be still closer still. I'll make it more dim. Do I still see the object? Oh, no, I don't see it. Now I know the distance. So that's what the script is doing. And this one is simply doing the same thing, but it's doing it with frequencies instead of brightnesses. And then there's the magic of, well, there's a filter inside that's looking for a particular frequency. And if you flash the infrared light on and off at a different frequency from what it's looking for, it becomes more nearsighted, just as though you had made the light brighter or dimmer. And okay, so don't worry about this for now. I guess I have this in the wrong place. But this is, you guys have done really, really well today. And so that was the last circuit example I wanted us to try out with the Cyberbot. And it's one that like I said, it's important to get the students into the idea. And this is like the last of the stock circuit examples in the Cyberbot kit. And so by this time they should be habitually looking for circuit errors and more able to find them. And so so we saved the most complex circuit for last. Now, I also want to mention that in the circuits, in the bag of parts that comes with the Cyberbot, we also have a light controlled Cyberbot. And if we go to that page, see they shone the light on it. So it's cruising along, and then all of a sudden we shine the light on it and it turns towards the light and you can lead it around. It'll also do a great job of exiting a dark room where the light is streaming into it. You can have a whole swarm of Cyberbots leaving the room. And this one has lots of good math lessons because we use some calculations to allow the Cyberbot to always be able to tell whether it's brighter on the left or right, regardless of how bright the ambient light is in the room. And so it requires a little fractional magic where we add up the total of two sensors and then divide that into one of the two sensors. And then we basically find out how much that one sensor is contributing to the total measurement. And like I said, that makes it so that the Cyberbot can deal with changes in ambient light because you're not using a fixed value. Well, you use that fixed value for comparison, and then you take it into another room and the whole ambient light situation is different there. Your fixed value is no good. So this is kind of a neat little activity for them, and they get to learn lots about the physics of light and and then again, doing some calculations to make the application more robust. They also learn about capacitors and phototransistors. Those are the sensors that are used to measure light. They are the one with the flat tops. And there are also some, this is just a review of the sensor apps. So we've got, so in the Cyberbot kit itself, in addition to navigation, piezo speaker for playing music, LED lights for just, making little indicator lights, and push buttons for learning about how contact sensors work. We have, of course, the whiskers, and that one that's the one you got to try on Wednesday, where it would bump into something and choose a new direction. We also have the light follower, which you just saw the video, and then we have the infrared, which you just got to try out. And so there are some other really fun things. For example, if you have a second microbit module, or in a classroom, you can pair students up, or you can even go with having a microbit connected to the teacher station, and then all the rest of the microbits running a script that listens to the radio. And so what we have here is, an example of maybe the teacher's computer, and there's a microbit connected to a USB cable on the teacher's computer. Then all these cyberbots, all these classroom cyberbots, are running a script that's looking for speed and direction, 2-wheel speed and 1 runtime message from the teacher's computer. And so here we go. Ken is going to type in to the left and the right speed are both 100. And then the runtime, I couldn't see it, but it's going to be a short runtime. So they just go forward a little bit, and then they back up a little bit, and you can type in speeds and directions to make them turn. And every student's cyberbot will be dancing to the same tune for that example. And then what you can do is you can pair students off and have them pick a radio channel, because the cyberbot has, I think, 83, and I'm going from memory there. It's north of 80 different radio channels. Although going 1 radio channel apart is a little risky. So we like to separate it by as many as possible. Like if there are 10 pairs of students, where they're going to control, one's going to keyboard into their cyberbot's microbit, and then the other is going to be controlled, you'd want to separate each channel by 8. And incidentally, in the script, so we'll look at the transmitter script real quick. Okay, actually, here is the receiver script. Sorry. Okay, so here is the receiver script. And when I say setting the radio channel, what I mean, can you guys see this okay? Let me. All right, well, here's a little extra. Basically, to make these work, you import the radio module at the start, along with your Cyberbot, of course, module. And then there's a radio on. The radio module gives you access to the radio on statement and the radio config statement. And the thing about radio config is that this is the channel, which can be from 0 to, I apologize, I think it's around 83. And so this is the number that students will pair off, and they'll adjust their scripts to both be that number. And then they can control their, they can tilt one cyberbot to control the other. sumo wrestling gets really popular. If you just take some tape on the floor and make a ring, the students get very interested in trying to tilt their robot to push another sumo bot out of the ring. There's also obstacle course races and other fun things. Tilting, or I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. This would be an obstacle course type of thing where you're typing in values. I'm sorry, the SumoBot type thing is for tilt control, which I'll talk about very shortly. This particular application is preceded by basic radio communication, where they get to do things like chat through the serial monitor and then send specific messages back and forth. And there's also a Send a Smile app that I'll bring to your attention as I'm looking through teacher resources. So they learn basic communication, sending text back and forth, and then they get to learn about organizing data, so you can do things like set up a remote countdown timer or do the keyboard control of the Cyberbot. Those get transmitted as what are called dictionaries. For those of you who know about sending data over the web, there's something called JSON data, and a dictionary is the Python version of JSON data. And so they get to learn about very practical, widely used techniques to organize the data before sending it off over the radio to the other Cyberbot. So then they do control from a keyboard, and then after that they do tilt control. And tilt control is the one where it's kind of inevitable that the students will end up setting up a sumo ring. Okay, so see how the microbit, and it could just be an entire Cyberbot, doesn't matter. The microbit is being tilted, and when it's tilted away from you, the Cyberbot goes forward, and then you can kind of tilt it left and right, and the Cyberbot will turn left or turn right. And another thing I want to point out is that there's a little pointer showing roughly which direction a marble would roll off the top of the microbit to show which direction it's being tilted. And that same little pointer is also showing on the Cyberbot. So that one tends to get the students' attention as well, and it's another radio application. And these are done using essentially the default open communication of the microbit to allow for some cybersecurity activities where they potentially get attacked and have to encrypt the information and decrypt it in the Cyberbot. Oh yes, well, here we are at cybersecurity. So in terms of the main lessons in the Cyberbot tutorial series, after you've done your navigation, experimented with sound and basic light, and then done the whiskers, the visible light and the infrared light, then there's the radio basics, and then there's the keyboard navigation and the tilt control. After that, we start talking about encryption, since they were doing all this over an open channel. And so there's things like how to do encryption, how a sniffing attack works, and how you can use encryption to defend against it. Likewise with brute force attacks, how brute force can be used to try to break an encryption key or a bank vault combination, and how various techniques to foil brute force attacks. And Yeah, there's one missing from this slide, which I'll show you in a little bit anyway. It's the malformed packet attack. Now this is a superset that includes the cyberbot. There's also a subset for a microbit type of enrichment class where we just do the microbit only activities. It's a little more dry without the cyberbot though. Let's see here. This is, yes. So in our previous workshops, we have a cybersecurity workshop where we sent out 2 microbits to each attendee, and they use those microbits to try out the various cybersecurity lessons that were in the trimmed version, the SANS cyberbot version. Then and I'll show you where to find these later because there's a more recent one than the August one. Let's see, when is the next workshop for the cyber? Do you mean the cybersecurity? Well, okay, I'll show you now. Let's find out. So we go to www.parallax.com and then point at community, select events. You guys probably found this through a newsletter. So right now, here is the workshop we're doing. And then the cybersecurity workshop is just a little under a month from now. So April 22nd, 24th, 26th. So if you're interested in attending that event, go ahead and you can view the event, and then there'll be a apply here button where you can fill out the form and answer some simple questions, and then we'll let you know if you made it into the workshop. Okay. Next up is the malformed packet attacks and defenses. But before we do this, I'm going to do a break, and let's plan this break. So it's going to be 5 before the hour, and I think I'd like you all to rejoin at 5 after the hour, so we can get up, stretch our legs, have a snack, use the bathroom, and all those other good things. So we will see you back here at 5 minutes past the hour. That's 10 minutes from now. Okay, welcome back, everyone. It is 5 minutes past the hour, and we will go ahead and resume. With malformed packet attacks. So I mentioned that there was encryption, there were sniffing attacks and defenses, there was brute force attacks and defenses, and yeah, and so the next up is malformed packet attacks and defenses, which is no longer a draft. Darn it, you know what this might be leading to? Is it going to learn.parallax.com? Yes, it is. Okay, good. So in the upcoming cybersecurity, or if you have a couple of microbits and you want to try it yourself, there's a way to foil a remote controlled, these all take 2 microbits. There's a way to foil a microbit countdown timer by sending it a malformed packet, and there's ways to defend against that. Likewise, there's sharing something personal. It's the remote version of pressing the A or B button for a smile or a frown. So it's transmitted across the radio to another microbit to tell that other microbit whether it's got a smile, a frown, or I think I used a check mark and an X and some other things. And this one also has a vulnerability to sending nonsensical data to the microbit. And in both these cases, essentially there are things that you can do in Python scripts called exception handling, which is an earlier chapter. So if we look back at the prerequisites, there is, let's see here, the exception handling primer is right here, and it goes into how to, well, how to create exceptions and how to cause them to not shut down your microbit, because that's what it does. And if anybody's ever had a web page freeze on them, sometimes that's an unhandled exception. Happens less and less as web technology moves forward, but it used to be quite the big deal back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So that is mainly the way that is taught for this. And we'll be doing these two activities during the cybersecurity workshop. However, we probably won't do the keyboard controlled activity. So I'll show you a demo of that now. It's kind of cool, I think. And so here we have the transmitter, including the attack packet. Let's see. No, okay. Back to here. Okay, so here is the transmitter, which also has the ability to send a malformed packet. Come on. We also talk about encryption to prevent, as another way of preventing a malformed packet, because they can't really see the data and copy it to make a malformed packet. So here we are with the terminal control. So this is the same one you saw earlier, where there was one teacher station controlling a classroom full of cyberbot robots. And the difference between the script here is that basically, if you send the number of milliseconds, normally you send a positive value. You want the maneuver to execute for 100 milliseconds or 3 seconds or whatever it's going to be. But what if you send something that's less than 0? And so what we did here is replaced whatever number you type in, whatever speed values you type in, with something to make the cyberbot spin slowly in place, and also to send it not a number for the number of milliseconds. And that basically causes an exception, and it causes the microbit to stop right there. When an exception occurs, the microbit stops executing its script. And so it's going to send the exception over the radio waves, and then this vulnerable script is going to stop in its tracks. So let me first demonstrate that to you. Okay, so here we go with, let's see here. I'll make the sender script. I have off to the side a cyberbot with a light circuit on it, and that one gets the control script with the added mischief of sending a malformed packet. So we'll go ahead and send that to this robot right over here. So it's in this cyberbot's microbit, and so this is connected on to a second USB port on my computer. So anytime I type something now here, so it's asking me for the left speed, so I'll say 100. Now there's nothing running in this one yet, so it's not going to do anything, but I could tell it to go full speed forward. I believe that's full speed forward. I'll have to check the script, and then maybe we'll do that for 1 second, and it goes ahead and sends off this this dictionary with all those values, and then the receiver is going to execute that as soon as I put in the receiver script. Note that, it uses a negative value here so that you can use positive values for forward on both wheels instead of having to negate the right wheel's value always. So this script takes care of that. So so we're going to type in positive values to make it go forward. All right, and so here is my infrared cyberbot, which will have be the remote controlled cyberbot. Uh-oh. So it looks like I just lost a USB connection. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try unplugging and replugging the USB. That's one of the risks of doing this. Oh, you know what? I unplugged the USB myself when I was demonstrating this guy. Okay, so now I've got to go back and do the transmitter and the receiver scripts again. Okay, so hopefully this guy's still connected here. Which one was this? I think this was the one ending in the 4,000 digits. So now you're seeing what it looks like when you have more than one microbit connected. And so, and then this one, actually it doesn't matter. One will be controlled or the other will be controlled. It doesn't need a particular circuit. So if I connect to the other microbit, does anybody remember whether I connected to the one that was, I think, let's try this. Okay. So hopefully these lights will disappear. No, they didn't. Okay, yeah, I apologize for this. I think I backed myself into a corner here. Okay, so I'll start with copying this and then I think I want to nuke all my site settings so that it'll ask me to reconnect to my to my microbit. Okay, so, and let's see if I still have, yeah, I still have the, okay, and then I'll do that for this one too. I do apologize for this unpolished demonstration. Okay, so hopefully, okay, not sure if this is going to work yet. We shall see. Okay, so I'll go forward slowly. And so we'll say maybe 30 and 30 and for 1 second. Okay, so it's sending the data out, but the cyberbot on the left here is not yet receiving it, and it may be because, see here, this is the radio receiver, and I'm going to display a heart to make sure it's in the right cyberbot. I believe that it's 4,000. Going from memory here. So I want to see a heart over here. Ah, I didn't have the power on. Okay, so this is the receiver bot. Let's see if I have. Okay, so this is the sender bot. So now it's a lot easier when students have their own computers and have one cyberbot connected, and then, or you can unplug the other cyberbot. Like you can plug the remote controlled cyberbot in, you can load the script, you can unplug it, and then you can plug the controller script in, which is probably what I should have done. So 30 and 30 and for a second. And I had the switch in one, so I'll try that again. 30, 30, 1,000. There we go. Okay, so now we'll back up. Negative 30, negative 30. Okay, so everything's going fine. Basically, the USB cable is connected to this microbit. This one does not need to be connected to USB, but I don't want to reconnect it and then potentially have challenges remembering which microbit ends in which number and all that. Okay, so right now we have control, and so everything's working fine until as the malicious actor, I can say, all right, well, let's make it go 30 and 30, but we'll give it a -1 value for its speed, or no, for its runtime. And when I do that, I think we'll see a frowny face and an error message appear here, and it also starts spinning slowly in place. So there's the frowny face and the error message, and I've got troubles. And what's really interesting about this is if I try to send another message again, nothing happens. This thing is completely stuck. So this cyberbot has been quite disabled, and the only thing, like if this is out in an obstacle course, it's basically dead in the water. The only thing you can do to recover it is to reload the script. Or you can actually, physically press and release the reset button, and that'll restart the script too, which is what I'll do. Okay, so now we're ready to go again. And so it'll still work here. But it required mechanical intervention. Somebody just unmuted themselves, and there's quite a bit of background sound. Okay. So to complete the example, the way to fix this is to add exception handling. And so I did that during the break, and hopefully I did it correctly. No, I did it incorrectly. Let me see if I can do this on the fly here. Okay. So what I want to do here is add the exception handling by adding this try statement, but I think I put it in the wrong place. Here we go. Okay, so we want to try right above dictionary equals eval of packet. So it's right here. And so the way it was introduced in the Cyberbot or in the exception handling tutorial was that try is code that you think might have some kind of error. And if an error occurs, it can be part of an except block. And with this except block, we want to set the speed to 0. And then we want to let the user know that it got a malformed packet. So let's see here. Print an exception occurred. Okay, Phyllis, thanks for coming. I'll be sending out the link. It looks like you got to go early. That's fine. I'll send out a link to the recording shortly. And then basically I'm just gonna add a sad face display. And then up here. Okay. So hopefully this will work for the receiver and fix our problem. All right, so we'll go back to our transmitter and make sure, first of all, that it still runs. So 30, 500. Okay, so it still works. So I'll go ahead and send it the malformed packet now and see what happens. Oops. 30, -1. So basically it's showing a sad face, but this time it just shows a sad face. It's not spinning in place and dead in the water, because if I try to back it up, it still works. And so that shows that the exception handling prevented the malformed packet from disabling this robot. And when you're having a contest, that's a very powerful tool to use in the contest, in terms of especially a red hat, blue hat kind of contest where the students are trying to interfere with each other's Cyberbot remote control. So it's a really cool and powerful lesson. I'm sorry that I was so fumble-fingered on demonstrating it. It's just a little bit of a challenge being on Zoom and having the Cyberbots connected to the same computer. Again, in the classroom, this is much easier to do because you can load the script in your remote Cyberbot, unplug it, and then plug in the Cyberbot or just the microbit that you're going to use to control the remote controlled Cyberbot, and then see it get hit by the malformed packet, and then see how it manages not to get hit by the malformed packet when it has some exception handling in here, where it tries, where it uses try, except, and even finally in order to catch those exceptions and do something, or and either not do something or do something about the fact that it had an exception that was caused by the radio data it received. Okay, so there are also additional items that you can put on the Cyberbot that are part of the class pack, or can be purchased as a sold separately item if you purchased, say, 10 boxes or 12 boxes or however many boxes of just plain old Cyberbots like the ones you have. So one of those is the line follower. And this is the QTI line follower. They are mounted underneath the Cyberbot so that it can follow an electrical tape stripe. And we do have that in class pack quantities. Oh, I'm sorry. It's included in the class pack. And there is also a QTI line follower bundle that can be added, or it can just be purchased individually to have one or two for the robots. We also have that TV remote, like the kind that sends infrared light. And again, it flashes that infrared light on and off at 38,000 times a second to be seen by the receiver that you build on the Cyberbot. And so you can use it to control a Cyberbot, which is kind of fun. And the one caveat about this, though, is that students have to be well separated from each other, because if you have them next to each other at the same desk or table, there is no special channel that you can adjust. These signals will go to both Cyberbots. So if you have two students with two remotes that are near each other, both remotes will affect both Cyberbots. So one student can be pressing forward and the other can be pressing turn in place, and the Cyberbots just kind of seem confused by that. And so that is just something to think about, is how to keep the students far enough away from each other to do the TV remote. I also recommend only doing, like, say, maybe four at a time, one in each corner, to keep them far away enough from each other. There's also a ultrasonic sensor. This one is mounted on a servo, and it sweeps back and forth kind of like a radar. And it's a great little application, and it comes in the Cyberbot class pack, but it is also sold separately as the ping ultrasonic sensor and mounting bracket. And incidentally, we have the part numbers here for ordering purposes, and you can go to our website and, for example, paste that number in, and you'll get the ping ultrasonic sensor plus mounting bracket. A few more interesting projects. Now, these are not included in the class pack. These are just sold separately items that you can also get. The first is the gripper, which is kind of neat. And this application right here is the tilt-controlled Cyberbot combined with using the buttons to control the gripper. And so the tilt control will be used to make the Cyberbot roll to I think it's the orange cylinder that we're going to get. And then the A button closes and picks up sends the close and pick up command to the Cyberbot. And then the B button sends the let go and open up command. So that's an example of something you can do with the gripper. We also have the Feedback 360 servos. I mentioned these on Monday because somebody asked. Let's see, that claw. Oh, so you like the gripper? Yeah, it's a very popular item. Here is the. Did I play this on? I played this on Monday. So this is the one where basically the Feedback 360 servos they straighten out the path of the Bobot. They can move a lot faster, and they can also go, you can also set your script to tell it to go a particular distance, which is why that little pointer is always pointing down, because the script that this was running was making it go a full wheel turn each time. And then, of course, you can combine the Feedback 360 with the gripper, which allows you to extend it by setting up a course with measurements and then having the students figure out ahead or why is this oh, that's weird. This is just the same application, but it's using the Feedback 360 servos instead of the but we had one where it goes and it gets this is the adding tilt control one. Okay, here it is. Go and get an object with distance control. So in this case, the measurements were taken beforehand, and then the script told the Cyberbot what distances to travel so that it could go and pick up that block and then place it on the post-it. And then go back to where it started. So that's a combination of gripper plus Feedback 360 servos. And again, those are sold separately just on their own. They're not part of the class pack. And I wanted to show you the class pack. I don't know why. I guess I'll talk about that. So this is the Cyberbot on its own, and the circuits that come with it are everything we've done during the workshop, plus light and speaker and push buttons are also part of it that we didn't do in the circuit and the learning about basic circuits part of it. Now the class pack, in addition, it has the QTI line follower. So that's the line followers that you mount, the ping, that's the rotating ultrasonic bracket, and then the infrared remote controls. And also very importantly, it has 5 battery chargers and 60 high capacity nickel metal hydride batteries. And so that makes it really convenient. Students can just add the batteries to the battery charger at the end of the day, and then take them out of the battery charger on the next class session. So going back to where we left off, we have a separate kit that emphasizes electricity and electronics, and it's called the What's a Microcontroller with Python and the Microbit kit, a mouthful of a name. It's got some pretty cool features. For example, measuring voltage. So, so students get to set up a circuit that will have some voltage applied to it. We'll run some current through, and they can measure that voltage. And when they measure the voltage, what they'll find out is that the voltage across the entire circuit in this case is 3.26 volts. And then the voltage across the resistor is 1.2 volts. And the voltage across the light emitting diode is 2.06 volts. And that happens to add up to that 3.26 volts. And that's Kirchhoff's voltage law, that the sum of the voltages in a series circuit, that's a circuit where things are connected end to end, has to add up to the total voltage applied to the whole circuit. And another thing that I like about this is we have some software that we created that allows you to see the measurement like it's a voltmeter. And so what is done is, instead of using the serial monitor like we use to control the Cyberbot, we connect it to cyberscope.parallax.com and run it from there. And so, for example, I'll go ahead and download just a little demo program here. And then open it up with so here is trycyberscope.hex. And we'll go ahead and send that to the microbit. And that's going to cause the microbit to send data that the cyberscope will understand. Okay, so then I'll go ahead and disconnect this. Actually, going to have the same problems because I have two microbits connected. Got to unplug one of them so that I only have one microbit connected. And let's see if we can reconnect and do this over again. Okay. Send to microbit. There's one microbit to choose from. Hooray. Okay, so now we'll disconnect from here, then go to cyberscope.parallax.com and then connect to the it shows up in this screen as embed serial port. And so the microbit is just sending some sample data that it's collected. And so it's acting as though it's measuring a sine wave and some exponential decays. And then it goes through and shows you, okay, what do voltage measurement look like? What do resistance measurement look like? And then it comes back to the oscilloscope and it shows some basic oscilloscope operating techniques. The electronic part leads may get a little too wrinkled over time and other parts could be missing. Then you can just, oh, that's Aristides answering some questions about maintaining kits. Okay. Anyway, so what's interesting about this is that in another version of that, oh, it's in the little movie. So if we go back to Cyberscope and watch the movie about it, and I'll fast forward to okay, so here we are taking those oscilloscope measurements, but there's a way to change the time base to zoom in time-wise on the signals. And there's also a way to do something called setting a trigger. And what the trigger does is it causes the signals to align, in this case, with the rising edge on that exponential decay part. So again, I'll show you. So here's changing the time base to zoom in on the signal. And then here's setting the trigger. And now the whole repeating signal will align itself with this purple line. There, it just did it. So that is that's part of the electronics education. And we use that to learn about the rules of voltage, current, resistance, continuity, and then control signals like controlling a servo. And then not shown on here is our potentiometer tutorial where we do applications, but we also do measurements using the cyberscope. For educational resources, here's a list of links of helpful go-to spots, many of which were included in the workshop. So this is kind of your, like, Make It Code It, for example, was one where we tried out the step counter. If you remember from day one, we tried out the step counter and shook the microbit and it counted. While I was here, I wanted to point out that there's the emotion badge, which you just use it to show whether you're happy or sad by pressing A or B. But later on, there's send a smile. And in this case, you're sending the emotion to one or more recipients. And this is one where the microbit only examples also have a malformed packet version of this that crashes the receiving microbit, and then techniques to make the receiving microbit hardened against such attacks. Learn.parallax.com. So these are the student resources. So if you go straight to learn.parallax.com, actually, these are Cyberbot student resources. So this is the textbook that they're going through. And if you get the, if you end up getting the class pack, you'll also do the QTI line following the ultrasonic on a turret and the TV remote. And then this is also where I picked out the tilt controlled gripper and the feedback 360 servo chapters. And at learn.parallax.com, there's also a whole lot of other stuff. Like, for example, here's a artificial intelligence set of lessons that uses the microbit here, and then also even uses the Cyberbot. And we have an AI actually challenged to write a script. And so on its first try, it wrote a script. I asked it to write a script to make the Cyberbot travel in a square, and it did so successfully. And but then I said, all right, you know, that was really kind of wasteful. And then the chatbot, in this case, did correctly, you know, put the forward and turn right into a for loop, which is pretty good. And we also go through other things about how you can even how malicious actors can trick AIs into creating vulnerabilities or creating malicious scripts, and also how to find out how to use AI as a tool to help harden your scripts against malicious attacks. So lots of good stuff in the student resources, and I guess I probably should have also gone up to the main page and shown that there's student resources for several different, you know, all the different types of robots I mentioned on the first day, plus lots more. Like I said, the artificial intelligence, the electronics lessons, the Cyberbot, cybersecurity lessons trimmed away so that you can do it with just a microbit. We also have Arduino and the propeller and the basic stamp, all kinds of tutorials for quite a few products. And all of these, this is all the student portal, but there's also an educator portal. And if, for example, we look at the Cyberbot resources, up front, we have teaching strategy guides, a link to these slides, a standards matrix, which is kind of nice. You can download it and open it up. And so we tried to hit as many common standards for the Cyberbot as we could. And so there, this came about because teachers requested alignments for the sake of justifying purchases. And so that's there to help you out with that. There's also a scope and sequence document that looks at using the Cyberbot over the you know, basically like chapter by chapter what to do with the Cyberbot and roughly how long it takes. And last but far from least is the assessment materials. Where did my, I guess I lost my page. So educators, Cyberbot resources. So that's all the front-facing stuff, but there's also a part where you as an educator have to log in order to access the assessment materials. And that's why we had everybody sign up with parallax.com. So when you follow that log in link, you're presented with a login screen that you probably saw during the homework. And now I have to go and hunt down my so after you log in, it'll show you, hey, you're successfully logged in. And then you can go back to educators and back to Cyberbot resources. And now, instead of a giant lock icon with a message saying you have to be logged in, now you've got a link to the Cyberbot assessment material. And we could, for example, look at the Whiskers assessment material, downloading it, and then unzipping it after we get to downloads. I'll just grab the PDF here, paste. And then go ahead and open that up. And so it shows that we have a nice worksheet for the students to go through, and then some solutions at the end, along with some tips for assessing whether they've met expectation or how far they have to go. Again, we have some upcoming workshops, including that one, starting April 22nd, the cybersecurity workshop. And then we have some in-person workshops. For example, we'll be at ISTE and at Ignite MD in North Dakota, and at the cyber.org workshop in late June. Pardon me, the cyber.org EdCon event. So that back to teacher resources again. I just really want to emphasize that as a warm up, the microbit.org/projects/make-it-code-it is just a great starting point. This is a link to the MicroPython documentation. It has another tutorial, and it also allows you to look up lots of good stuff. However, this is not as important anymore, because if you go to python.microbit.org/v/3, the reference is now built into the editor. So for example, you can even go and say, hey, let's see how to display image.heart for 0.4 seconds. Cyber.org is another place that has resources. If you're a teacher in the United States, that's a requirement, is you have to be a United States teacher. You can sign up. They recommend that you use your school district email to sign up, so that they can check you in the teachers directory on your school's website to vet you. And then once you are signed up and get your welcome email, they have some additional material for the microbit only in their coding fundamentals module. And then they also have some Cyberbot material in Cyber Literacy 1 and Cyber Literacy 2. For purchasing, I think we talked, or well, I don't remember if we talked about this, but the Cyberbot is on its own with the Whiskers, the infrared and all that, is $279 as an individual, but by the time you get up to over 20, it's discounted down to $250. There is also, as I mentioned before, the class pack with the QTI line followers, ultrasonic sensors, rechargeable batteries, TV remote battery rechargers. And oh, and there's even a class banner. That's pretty cool. And so I included the link to that. I'll go ahead and paste that in here, along with a link to the Cyberbot on its own. And we also have a few other things that are useful. If you have, for example, Bobot or Arduino ShieldBot robots, and you want to convert them to Cyberbot robots, we have a nice little conversion kit that has a microbit Cyberbot board, 5-cell pack, and micro USB cable, which are all the things that neither the Bobot nor the Arduino ShieldBot have. These I highly recommend. I'm going to paste these in. If you have a Cyberbot, you'll want to have some extra electronic parts. And you'll also want to have some extra nuts and bolts and standoffs and the like. So these are really good things. If you're ordering Cyberbots, order a few extra electronics parts kits, and hardware refresher packs. For support, we have an educator hotline. Ari, is that still 9 to 5 or 8 to 5? Pardon me.
No.
It's 8 to 3, isn't it?
Yes, it's 8 to 3.
Okay.
And usually we prefer an email, because usually we end up in Zoom anyway, sharing screens, sending links. So usually over email is easier to send the answer, or send the link for Zoom and jump in a meeting.
Another advantage to education@parallax.com is if you have a particular question or you're stuck on something, the right person for the job will call you back, because it goes to all of our education department. And so if it pertains to one thing, maybe Ari will reach out to you. If it pertains to something else, I might call to help, and so on and so forth. We also have a dedicated sales line, both email and phone number, support forums, Facebook, and then there's a microbit Facebook listed here too. So that concludes the workshop. I want to say thanks for coming to everyone, and I hope you had a good time, tried a lot of cool things, and then got to see a few extra cool things here at the end too. So thanks from all of us, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully at another workshop.